everything you need to know about products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on CL 650.
I'm knocking on heaven's door. I'm knocking on heaven's door.
And welcome back to the show. This is Strata Life on CL 650. Drew Grout is my guest here from Key Pacific Property Management, Director of Strata Services. And Mark Furkatich from Valley All Door also joins us talking about the security gates and keeping the bad guys out from your underground parkade. Now back to the mailbag. Drew, this one's for you. My fellow Strata Council members and I have had a stressful year. Problem after problem. We have an insignificant amount remaining in our budget, and the council voted to use it to pay each of us a small bonus for the hassle this year. If someone brings this up at the AGM, what can we say to explain? Have you heard this one before?
Well, I've had Stratas deal with that sort of issue, but not like this one seems to have transpired. I've been at general meetings where the owners have shown their appreciation for the council, the outgoing council, by making a motion to allow them to go out for dinner, them and their spouses on behalf of the Strata. There are Stratas, and there's the ability for a Strata corporation to pay their council members through the budget, if there's a budgeted item, or through a bylaw, if there's a bylaw that allows it. Actually, we just released the payment for a Strata last week that had it in their budget, and the Act allows for that to happen if it's done properly. This seems to have been a situation where the cart's gone before the horse. Certainly, if they hadn't made that decision but went to the general meeting, they probably somehow could have had somebody make a motion to allow just that. And the owners generally, they got to look out for their own destiny. But just to do it arbitrarily on their own because they've had a tough year, I think they're courting trouble. Mm-hmm. But it's not insurmountable.
Right. There's ways around it. All right. The next question is, we had a huge fight at our annual general meeting after a close vote. That's never happened before, right?
Oh, if you heard recently on the news, people being dragged down the stairs.
Yeah, that wasn't good. And the cameras were rolling.
Yeah.
Can you clarify what constitutes a majority vote? Is it 50 plus 1, or is it 60 or 70? What is a majority?
It's basically half plus 1.
Yeah.
Or it could be half plus a part of one. If they have, some places don't have just one strata, one vote. They may have a commercial operation there which has 3.2 votes.
Can you write into the bylaws that a majority is 60% or 70%?
Generally, you don't see that sort of thing happening. The Act spells out what three-quarter votes are and what majority votes are. But the other important thing is that at general meetings, these are not just 50% of the owners. It's 50% of the votes cast. Mm-hmm.
Because you have to be present to vote.
Well, you can have 100 people at a meeting, but if only 50 people vote, actually cast the vote, the others abstain. You don't count the abstentions. So it's 50% of those 50 people who vote or a majority of those 50 people have to vote in favor. So 26 people have to vote in favor for it to pass. So majority or three-quarter vote, it's that percentage of votes cast.
Is there a movement to getting people to not vote at the meeting so you can actually say, okay, this is the motion we're putting forward. We're putting that out to all Strata owners, and they will have by a certain date to vote on it, like with a mail-in or a ballot or electronically or something like that, just so that more people can represent a greater majority of people in the building?
I wouldn't say there's a movement, but there have been Stratas that have mail-in ballots, so to speak, for a number of reasons. One is they just don't get the turnout, so this is a way of reaching the owners. But I would say it's not a movement.
Most people are at the meeting, annual general meeting, make their presence known.
I mean, we've talked about this before. There's some general apathy. People don't, particularly if there's no change in the strata fees, well, why should I bother going? I don't care. Let them do that. But what we encourage people to do is, if you're not going to be at the meeting, can't be at the meeting, don't want to be at the meeting, provide your proxy to somebody who can at least vote on your behalf, a council member or whoever.
All right, the next question. All of the townhouses in our strata are basically the same size. Due to the design, the end units have a small bit of extra living space. Our strata fees collections were complex because these end units pay slightly more. The Strata Council submitted this year's budget with all units paying the same amount, and the voters approved. Now, one owner is complaining that we can't change the payments like this. If the budget vote was approved, is it over?
I guess if the budget was approved, it's over for the time being, perhaps.
Or maybe that year?
Yeah, or until somebody actually challenges it, rather than just talk about it, challenges it. The Act spells out how common expenses are supposed to be divvied up, and it's generally based on unit entitlement. So you'll find a larger unit with more living space, more habitable square footage, will have a larger strata fee. You can have strata fees divvied up on an equal basis, but there's a process you need to follow to implement that. You don't just do it in the budget and vote on it. It requires a little bit more work involved and a 3/4 vote of the owners to change that process. But
so that's not the 50 plus 1. It's
no,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. The next one says, we have a bylaw that limits the number of rentals in a strata. This is something common, from 1 to 5. I'm aware of at least 9 units that are non-owner occupied. The most recent council meeting minutes indicated they just approved another unit for rental. How can this be? Do they have to follow the bylaws?
Yes, you need to file bylaws, but it's a question of what does a bylaw pertain to, or who does it apply to. So you mentioned rentals earlier. The government has made changes to the Strata Property Act, and in the Form J, which is a rental disclosure statement that the developer has to produce, which indicates which units are can be rented. Anything after 2010, basically the developer's done the right thing, and most of them are doing the right thing today and properly completing that. That right to rent runs with the strata lot for however long it's stated in the disclosure statement. Could be 99 years.
And that was obviously meant because we have such a low vacancy rate. People are screaming for more rentals,
yes,
right?
You want to increase the rental
And I mentioned that at the very beginning. We used to have rental buildings, right?
Yeah.
An apartment building that everybody rented. Now you have to rent from an owner. Yeah. That's how you get an apartment.
Exactly. Prior to that, you had from I'm having a brain freeze with the Condominium Act,
right,
and then the Strata Property Act. But prior to 2010, the right to own transferred from the developer to the first purchaser. And they could rent indefinitely. But once they sold, that new owner would be bound by the bylaw.
So this building might actually have 9 non-owner renters, but they could have bought it with the ability to rent, as you mentioned, right?
Yes. It's also important if their bylaw spells out how they're going to administer and manage the rentals. Because if I'm allowed to rent, and I'm going to use the word grandfathered, although it's a misnomer, but if I'm allowed to rent because I'm a first purchaser, or it's after 2010 and that says in the disclosure I can rent, I can rent. If the bylaw says there's 5 rentals, there could be 25 rentals. Before 2010, these bylaws were to try and reduce the number of rentals, but it would happen through attrition until you got down to a rental's a rental. Whether you're grandfathered or whether you've got special approval because of hardship or whatever, or if you are renting under the bylaw restriction, a rental's a rental. Although some people might argue the grandfathered contribution to the list, but so you can have more rentals than really, the bylaw says.
You really need to know when your building was developed, if that J, what is it called again?
Form J.
Form J has been filled in and allows you to do that.
Yeah, and the bylaws themselves, they speak to that. So the bylaw should be followed, but there are going to be situations where the number of rentals exceed the limit.
Mark Furkatich from Valley Aldor. The little hose you drive over when you go into an underground is called a truddle?
Truddle hose.
Truddle hose. I'm going to remember that. That's good. That's You know, Drew, that's going to be my takeaway from today. Treadle hose.
I'll read you our quick list of what we do when we service.
As quickly as you can. Maybe give us the top 5 or 10 there,
right.
because we are up against the clock, unfortunately.
Air hose, safety switch.
The treadle hose, yeah.
Yeah. Track fixtures, all the mechanical side of the gates.
Mm-hmm.
Checked, serviced every time we come out.
And that's where you go to your a property management company like Key Pacific, and then they have the company like Valley All-Door come in and service it for you.
Sure.
And do
service
the
contracts, yep.
Smaller is twice a year,
Yep.
medium 3 times a year, larger buildings at least 4 times a year.
Sure, you
Spend
bet.
the money now.
Yes.
It's much cheaper than getting Mark in his van to your building.
It'll cost you more money down the road if you don't have
Pay me now or pay me later.
Exactly.
We should have a show called that. You pay me now or pay me later, because that's the uncommon common sense we're talking about, right? All right, it's been a very interesting show. Thank you very much, Mark Furkatich from Valley All-Door, Drew Grout, Director of Strata Services from Key Pacific Property Management. As always, Drew, it's great to have you here. Nice tie, the festive tie, very well done.
great.
And have a great holiday season, both of you. Thanks for listening to Strata
Same to
Life.
you.
I'm Zach Spencer. We'll speak to you next time.
Thank you, Zach.